Okay. Good morning. Welcome to Stepping Up Kosher, our weekly journey in the laws of kosher. And we have begun our class a few weeks ago by going through different concepts in kosher. So far we've gone through kosher animals, kosher fish, kosher birds, etc. We've gone through how to shecht an animal, the proper way. We haven't gone through how to shecht an animal, but we've gone through what can make an animal not kosher, such as, for example, if an animal is missing a limb or torn or has a hole in the lungs, etc. And today we are going to begin by tackling three concepts in kosher that all relate to blood. Okay? So, we're going to start off with melichat basar, which means salting meat. Again, we're out of order here with his alphabetical order, but it makes more sense to teach it this way. So, Nemer b'Torah. There's a verse in the Torah that says, V'chol dam lo sochelu b'chomosh v'seichem la'of v'la'behema. That any blood that there is from a bird or from an animal should not be eaten in all of your dwellings. Therefore, anybody who wants to eat an animal or a domesticated animal or a wild animal, so deer or beef or anything like that, or even fowl, yes. We're not watching videos today. If you want, you can go play with your cousins that are in the back. You can take your yogurt and your lemon. You can go to the back okay? You want to sit on Tati's lap, or you want to go play with them? Okay, see you soon. So anybody who wants to eat any of these things has to salt it. Okay. What is the process for salting? Again, the process of salting is meant in order to be able to take the blood out of the animal, out of the meat. And the process of salting is a multi-step process. And the steps are as follows. Step number one. You have to rinse off all of the meat that you are going to be salting very well and soak them in water. Good morning. And soak them in water for about half an hour in water. After that, you have to put them on a grate or or in a bowl with holes in it and begin to salt them. Now, the salt that you use has to be medium-sized salt, and you have to salt it from both sides. The salt cannot be tiny little granules. And it cannot be too big, massive chunks of salt. Think of when you go to the Dead Sea. They have these massive chunks that you poke your toes on, right? It can't be that either. It has to be medium-sized pieces of salt. As a result, we have a product that they sell in Ralph's in every market that's called kosher salt. Why kosher? Not because that salt is kosher and no other salt is kosher. Because this is the salt that is used for kosherizing. So you salt it on both sides. In order to and you salt so much, and this is why, by the way, don't make the mistake of buying, if someone is used to grilling or cooking non-kosher meat, very often they make the mistake of salting their meat. Kosher meat never needs to be salted. Why? Because how much salt you need to put? You need to put so much salt so that so that there shouldn't be a space without any salt for a full hour. Okay, so the entire surface of the meat on both sides should be completely covered in salt for 1 hour. After you finish salting it, you shake off all of the salt from the meat, or you can rinse it off with water, and then you start to scrub it down in a clean vessel, not the same vessel, in a clean vessel with that's filled with water. You scrub it down, you pour the water out, you fill it up again, you scrub again, you pour it out. You do this process 3 times, and after that you are done with salting the meat. Salting the meat helps for every single piece to make kosher any piece of meat, besides for two parts of the animal. Anybody want to guess what they are? Think of the bloodiest parts of the animal. The liver. Thank you. And the second one, most obvious one. The heart. Very good. Besides for the heart and the liver, which are full of blood, salting them is not enough, and there's a separate process to that. So let's move from this directly into the next step, which is liver. Right about now is when I should say that obviously all of our grandmothers used to know exactly how to salt. There was a process how to do that. They would take classes in it, like CPR, like that. They knew exactly how to do it, and then they would be constantly doing it. So it was all good, right? But today, any meat that you buy with a kosher symbol on it in a store, glat or not glat, it doesn't make a difference. Glat we discussed last week. What the difference is between glat and not glat. Remember, smooth or not smooth. We'll talk more about. We're not going to talk more about it. That was that. But any kosher meat that you buy is already salted. to remove all the blood. Because part of meat being kosher, besides it being slaughtered properly, besides being from a kosher animal, is also that it has been salted so that there's no blood. Okay? So you're all set with that one. But now you know the process. But let's move from this directly into liver. What about liver? Right? Everybody knows that Jews love chopped liver, right? So how are they eating liver if liver is so full of blood? So he starts off again. It says in the Torah, the same verse, that you're not allowed to eat blood. And there is a difference with regards to liver because liver is so full of blood. Salting is not enough for it in order to take out the blood, and therefore the only way to make it kosher is through roasting. Okay? When you roast, and he's going to go through the process in just a second. There's more than just roasting. But when you roast it, that will take out all of the blood. But before you roast it, you have to do this process. It's called shesi ve'erev. What does that mean? You take the piece of meat, you scrub it down and clean it down properly with water, and then you cut it in what's known as a shesi ve'erev, which is a cross section of cutting, full horizontal and full like a slice in it, horizontally and vertically, and then you hang it upside down with that cut hanging down. You put a little bit of salt, and then you roast it. You hang it like that, and you roast it while it's hanging like that with the open part facing downwards. Then after you finish the roasting, you rinse it off and scrub it down again. And then you can cook it if you want, no problem. But at least you have to have done the roasting with this cutting backwards and forwards. And that has to be done, by the way, within 72 hours of the animal being slaughtered. And then obviously after the roasting, it has to be rinsed again. And then you can cook it, no problem. Now, why does it have to be done within 72 hours of the slaughtering? Because what happens is blood slowly comes out, right? As blood slowly comes out, it also goes back in, right? Because the meat, piece of meat begins to calm down, right? So first, it starts to absorb all that blood, and then the blood starts to settle inside the piece of meat, right? So in order to get all the meat out, the roasting and the salting and the cutting and the hanging, all of that has to be done within 72 hours of the animal being slaughtered. And that's the only way to have kosher chopped liver. All right? After that, you can cook it, you can chop it, you can mix it with eggs and make a nice salad, you can do whatever you want with it, no problem. But in order for it to be kosher, this is the only process that makes a piece of liver kosher. Okay. One more law with regards to blood, and that is, as Jews, we are commanded kisui dam shchita, which means to cover the blood. Nemer b'Torah. There is a verse in the Torah that says, "Ve'ish ish mibnei Yisrael minager agar b'tocham." Any Jewish person or a Jewish convert, asher yatzud tzayid chaya, who will catch an animal or oif or fowl, any bird, asher yochel, which he wants to eat, and he will spill out the blood. Then he has to cover the blood with dirt. The Torah commands us with regards to the covering of blood of any animal that is appropriate for eating. It was a kosher animal that we're allowed to eat, but not with regards to the blood of a chaya. Chaya is like a non-domesticated animal. So, for example, if a deer, or a non-domesticated bird, I don't know an example of that. You don't. So let's say it was, or let's say any animal that was. What's the word I'm looking for? Not roadkill. When another animal kills it out in the wild, you don't need to cover their blood. You only need to cover the blood if you are slaughtering it for this purpose. Okay, so before you before you start the slaughtering process, the first thing the shochet has to do, and by the way, we've been through this before. I went through the classes and the law, the ins and outs of exactly how to shecht an animal, right? So the first thing you need to do before you even start is you take dirt, because you have to cover it on the bottom and on the top. You take dirt and you spread it on the bottom under wherever you're going to be shechting, right? Because as soon as you shecht, it's going to be dripping down onto there, right? So the first thing you do is you spread some earth down on the bottom, and on top of that is where you slaughter, and you make a bracha, because this is a separate mitzvah. Besides the mitzvah of slaughtering, you make one mitzvah for slaughtering, one bracha on slaughtering, because that's a mitzvah, and you make a separate bracha on covering the blood. And that mitzvah is Asher Kiddushan Mitzvot V'Tzivanu, right? Obviously with the customary beginning, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, Asher Kiddushan Mitzvot V'Tzivanu, who sanctified us with his commandments, commanded us to, Al Kisui Dam Ba'afar, with regards to covering blood with earth. Then you take you have a bucket of earth prepared, right after you slaughter it, and you put the animal down, and it's dripping blood. Now you take some earth, and you cover that blood, and with regards to earth could also be ground up stones, also counts as earth. Ground up pieces of bark or twigs also counts. But a vessel does not count. So to take earthenware or stainless steel, plate or bowl and turn it upside down over it, that doesn't count. That's not considered covering. The main mitzvah of covering blood is on the person who shechts. Excuse me, on the person who is actually slaughtering. If he doesn't do it, then anybody who sees the revealed blood can cover it over. But really, the ideal person who's supposed to do it is the actual person who is slaughtering. Practically today, I think for most Jews, obviously I did a lot of slaughtering, and when I was slaughtering, obviously I was covering the blood. But for most Jews today, if you're not slaughtering animals, the most common time to do this is by kaparot, right? On Erev Yom Kippur, when we take a chicken to be slaughtered, and the whole concept of kaparot. So then there's also the opportunity then to do the mitzvah of covering the blood with dirt. The shochet is going to do it, but you see the blood, so you have an opportunity to do so, and you can actually make a blessing there. Okay, let's pause now. Any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Do we have only rabbis can do the slaughtering, or it can be any Jew?
So, not rabbis. It doesn't have to be a rabbi.
Okay.
But it does have to be somebody who is specifically trained in the laws of shechita. Yes.
Got it.
So, usually that will be a rabbi. It will be somebody with a yeshiva background, if that's what you mean, because they have to study all the laws in the Talmud, and then in a book that's called Simla Chadasha. That's like the Bible for slaughter. That has all the traditions about how to slaughter an animal. And specifically with regards to slaughtering, there are a few additional criteria. So number one is, just like anybody who wants to do anything from a Jewish perspective, you have to know the law as well. You have to study the law as well. And then you'll get something which is called Kabbalah, which means you're certified that you know the laws. But in addition to that, you have to get a separate certification, which is called Hoda'ah, which means that you have to actually train under an actual shochet. And every shochet will have their requirements. They can decide. I think the minimum requirement is 3. You have to do 3 of them and know how to do it. But no shochet will certify you have to shechting 3 chickens or 3 cows. Usually they'll make you do many, many more. The person that I was certified under made me do 500 chickens. But, which makes sense. He wants your hands to get used to the process. And by the way, that was now 14 years ago that I was certified for that. So at this point, I would not pick up a chalav, pick up a ritual slaughtering knife and just slaughter animals before I went again under somebody and did it again under them, or at least on my own did it again and made sure that I knew and I was comfortable with how to do it again. I wouldn't just go do it. Now, so those are the 2 technical certifications you need to have. They're called Kabbalah and Hoda'ah in order to be a shochet. We're kind of off topic here. Maybe we should jump to shechita next. But the other thing that I will mention is that shechita is one of very, very few mitzvot in the entire Torah that cannot really be overseen. In other words, I remember the first time that I shechted a chicken. As soon as I finished slaughtering it, I turned to the guy and I said, "Did I do a good job?" And he says, "Haven't you learned anything? Only you can tell me if you did a good job." Why? Because there's only 5 laws really that you're avoiding when it comes to shechita, and all of them involve painting the animal. You're not allowed to chop it. You're not allowed to get caught on something. Whatever. There's a whole bunch of things. You're not allowed to pause in the middle of the shechita. And these things are so minuscule that nobody can see it with the naked eye. Nobody can see by you doing it. Nobody can tell you, "Oh, you paused." Only you can know that. As a result, shechita is the one area of kosher that people, or I don't know if it's the one area, but it's the main area of kosher that people are very, very careful to have what we call Yirei Shamayim. That the person who shechts, the person who's slaughtering has to be a God-fearing Jew. Not just a Jew who does it because, whatever. No, he has to actually have true fear of God within him. You have to trust him that he's somebody who actually cares. Because if he doesn't care, if he's just doing a job, if he's just here to make a buck, then there's a good chance that it's not going to, that he'll make a tiny mistake, he just won't tell anybody. Because why should he make this one not kosher and then he has to go sell the chicken to a non-Jew, etc.? So, that's why you'll find with regards to the laws of kosher, many people will trust the kosher certification when it comes to, let's say, eating out in a restaurant or buying, maple syrup in the store. They'll trust a certain kosher symbol, but when it comes to shechita, they're very careful to have a certain type of shechita. Whatever it is, these people like this, these people like that. Why? Because they trust that this particular kosher certification, it's not just that they're certifying that everything is done properly as per how much they can see, but they're also certifying the character of the shochatim, the character of those that are slaughtering. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's the additional element of shechita. So since you guys asked questions of shechita, let's jump to shechita, shall we? Shechita. Never b'Torah, there is a verse in the Torah that says, if your heart desires to eat meat, you have to slaughter the meat as per the way, right? Whether it's sheep or whether it's cattle, whatever, etc. He goes through all this. as per the way that I have told you to slaughter it. Al-Kain, therefore, Habal lechol basar mibali chayim tahorim. If anybody wants to eat any meat, obviously it has to be from a kosher animal, there is a mitzvah to perform the ritual slaughtering as per the laws of slaughter. Okay? The problem is that the laws of Hanashecht, even though the Torah tells us to slaughter it, kasher tziviticha, as I commanded you, right? The laws of how to slaughter it are not in the Torah. This is one of the places in the Torah that we have a clear reference in the written Torah to the oral Torah. Obviously, there's a tradition that Hashem is referencing. He says, kasher tziviticha, as I commanded you. But there's nowhere in the Torah that you will find those 5 laws that I told you with regards to shechita. So what do you have to do? You have to be able to have the oral tradition. Like I told you today, that's transcribed already in a book called Simla Chadasha. And then you know how to slaughter it. Right? Okay, so all of these things are what we call halacha l'Moshe Sinai, passed down from Moses at Sinai. Okay? There's many, many nuanced details in the laws, and you have to know exactly all the different things, right? There's know all the different details, and I discussed already how somebody becomes certified in order to become a proper shochet. There's discussion from Sinai. There's been discussion about who's appropriate to shech, who can slaughter, how to what we call in Yiddish stelling a chalef, which means how to sharpen the knife. Before I even shechted my first animal, right? Before I even slaughtered my first animal, I had to be able to learn how to properly sharpen the knife, so that the knife is sharpened in a way that is appropriate, that it's not going to violate any of the laws of shechita, right? Exactly how to cut, like I told you, the 5 laws. And therefore, nobody can. He's just listening here. I already said it. Nobody can slaughter animals. No Jew should be trusted on how to slaughter an animal unless they have Kabbalah and Hodah, these 2 certifications. Number 1, that they are proficient in the laws, and number two, that they have seen and under apprenticeship under someone else had a shecht, and he can affirm that they know how to do it and they know how to do it properly. In order that there shouldn't be any mistakes in the shechita, in the slaughtering. One more obligation that there is on a shochet, and that is that every shochet is obligated. I'm not aware that there's any other laws that this obligation is clear in the laws of the how to do this. But every shochet is obligated to refresh himself on the laws of shechita from time to time. I believe the recommended time is every 30 days. So the book that I had, Simla Chadasha, that I was talking about, which is kind of like the Bible that people use for shechting, right, which summarizes all the oral laws, etc., as they've been passed down, is actually divided. As you're studying it, and we studied it first, just to study the book. So that takes a lot longer. That took us like a couple months, whatever, I was learning every day for a couple, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it was, with the chavruta, etc. But as you go through it, it's one of those books that has on the side, Yom Aleph, Yom Bet, Yom Gimel, which means the first day, the second day, the third day, if you're starting a 30-day cycle, and Shochatim have that kind of cycle. So, for example, if you go to a city like in Uruguay, or in Postville, Iowa, or in Pennsylvania, where they have these big slaughterhouses, because today everything's commercialized, right? So there's also a shul, which they call the shul of the Shochatim. And by the way, you go back to Russia, this was the same thing. There was always the shul of the shuv. It was called the shul where the Shochatim would daven. What differentiates the shul with the shochet and the daven? Okay, so it could be because they davened longer, because they were usually people that were more God-fearing people, etc., etc. But in addition to that, they had a shiur every single day. They had a class every single day after the prayer, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it was, to go through the laws of shechita. To review. Why? Because it's an obligation. It's obligatory on any shochet to be able to do that. Okay, perfect. This is going to take us directly into the next law that we're going to learn for today, which is nevela. Nevela means the prohibition to eat a carcass, a dead animal. Nemer b'Torah, there's a verse in the Torah that says, Lo sochlu kol nevela, you should not eat any dead carcass. Lagera shabisharecha titnena va'achla oimacher lenochri ki am kodesh ata l'Hashem l'kecha. You are not allowed to eat just a dead animal that was not slaughtered properly according to the laws of kosher, and therefore it should be for any peaceful non-Jew who's living among you, give it to him, sell it to him. Why? Because you are a holy nation unto God and you're not allowed to eat it. What is a nevela? Nevela is any living animal that died, or even if it was slaughtered, but not according to Jewish law, that's called a nevela. And the Torah prohibits us from eating this, but allows us, clearly you see it directly in the verse, allows us to have pleasure from it. In other words, you're allowed to sell it and make money off of it. You don't have to just burn it, you know what I mean? Like what we spoke about when you mix milk and meat, you're not even allowed to give it to someone else. Wine, I think Yain Nesach also is like wine of a non-Jew, or wine that was used for idol worship, right? It was designated for idol worship. Also, you're not allowed to have pleasure from. There's certain things you're not allowed to have pleasure from, that the prohibition extends not just to eating and drinking, but also to pleasure, not dead animals. If a person has an animal that died, let's say he's a cattle rearer, right? And he has a whole bunch of cattle, a cattle breeder. And he has all sorts of cattle, and one of them just dies of natural causes. Now he can't eat it, right? So you're allowed to use the skin for something else. You're allowed to use the flesh of the animal and sell it on the non-kosher meat market. It's always at a loss because it sells for much cheaper, right? But you're allowed to do that. Okay. Let's do one more mitzvah that relates to this whole process of shechita. We spoke about it last time we learned. Was that last week? It was last week. That is called nikur. What does nikur mean? Nikur is what I would call dismembering. We're disassembling the animal. After you shecht an animal, after you slaughter an animal, and you did the bidika, which means the examination. Remember we said there's an outer examination to check to see that it doesn't have anything that would make it treif, right? Which means that it wouldn't live a year, any of those blemishes. So now the animal is kosher, right? What's the next step? The next step is called nikur, which is to take out any of the pieces of the animal. Disassemble the animal, take out the pieces that are not kosher. This is before salting, right? So for example, you got to take out all the chaylev, all the fats that we learned about last week, that you're not allowed to eat certain fats of the animal. Take them all out, put them aside. You have to take out the gida nasha, right? Remember that hind leg? Separate that and put it, and all the things that are attached to it and put it aside. Any of the veins that are too full of blood that we don't even bother salting them, you take them out, you put them aside. The liver, the heart, take them aside, right? All of these things, you separate them, and then what's left, you salt, and that's how you do it. Okay. In order to know how to do this properly, this, by the way, is more complicated than the laws of shechita. It's not as Yirei Shamayim dependent. It's not as God-fearing dependent, because you can clearly see what's there and what's not there, right? So this is the type of thing you can have somebody who just practically knows how to do it, and then somebody who's God-fearing can oversee it, right? Somebody can certify it. There can be oversight. Oversight is the wrong word. I mean the opposite. There can be supervision. It's interesting. We use oversight for when you didn't notice something, right?
Yes. But we also use it.
Yeah, it works both ways. It's the same word. That's strange. Yeah. Okay. So that is nikur, disassembling the animal. One more for today, and then we're going to call it a day. And then next time that we study, which will be next week, we are going to finish it off. Matnos kuhuna. The gifts to a kohen. Okay? So this is something we're going to see. Most of it doesn't apply today. And there's a simple out for the ones that do apply today. But let's go through this first from the Torah. There is a verse in the Torah that says, this should be the law for the kohanim, for the priests, from among the nation, that there should be certain parts of the animal, whether it's an ox, whether it's a sheep. There are certain parts of the animal that goes through the cheekbone, the zroa, the chayayim, the keva, the cheekbone, the thing, all the different, right, the certain parts of the animal that are supposed to be given to the kohen. Okay. So a person who goes through the whole process properly, he shechts an animal, he slaughters an animal, it's a kosher animal, he salts the animal, everything, there are still certain parts of the animal that he's supposed to give to the kohen. Okay. You have the zroa, hayaminis, the right shank bone. You have the cheekbone on both sides, which goes together with the tongue that's in between them. And then the keva, which is it's like the lower part of the stomach, if I remember correctly. So these are the portions that need to go to the kohen. Now, in total, there are 24 gifts that we give to the kohen. Okay? Because it's not just from flesh, it's also from our crops and from our fruits and from our, right, all these different things. Now, this mitzvah of these parts of the animal that have to go to the kohen really applies today as well. But, and therefore today, any person who owns an animal, today they do this in the breeding, remember the meat packing plants that there are around the world that provide kosher meat to the world. So what they do is you have a partnership with a kohen, right? That he buys from you. That you buy from him these portions of the animal. Now you're allowed to just use all the meat of the animal. So this is how they do it, and in this way, so this is one of the 24 gifts that are given to the kohen. Not all of them apply today, but this one does apply today, and that's why there's out where we just pay a kohen a certain amount of money, meaning the owner of the meat packet pays a kohen a certain amount of money, and that's part of what draws on making your kosher meat price go up, because they have to give a certain amount of money to the kohen. Okay. We are done for today, and next week there will be no class. It will be Chol HaMoed Pesach, but the week afterwards we will have a class, and in that class we will finish off with Neta Revai, Arla, Shabbat, the laws of kosher apply Shabbat. Shemitah, mixture of prohibited things and creepy crawlies, bugs and worms, etc., which ties into vegetables and fruits, obviously, that we're allowed to eat, and how we have to check them for living insects. Okay, so that will conclude our list of all the concepts of kosher, and we'll be ready to dive into each one of them one at a time in depth. Thank you all for joining us. Any questions?